Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something today. When somebody walks out of your life thinking they've upgraded, thinking they've done you a favor by choosing someone else over you, the worst thing you can do is beg, cry, or chase them. That ain't your job. Silence becomes strength when you master your response to rejection, because silence isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing everything without making a sound. It's about showing the world that you're unbothered, even when your heart is breaking. It's about walking away from noise and stepping into power, because silence makes people uncomfortable when they know they did you wrong. It echoes in their minds louder than any words could ever scream. It follows them when they try to move on. It whispers in the quiet moments and reminds them of everything they thought they'd never miss, and yet now they do. They miss your energy, your loyalty, your attention, your effort, your presence, and yet you've given them none of it anymore. Not because you're bitter, but because you finally recognize your worth. And when a woman understands her worth, she no longer wastes her voice trying to convince someone to stay. She no longer explains herself to people who chose confusion. She no longer argues to be understood by a man who never listened in the first place. Instead, she chooses the higher road. She walks away, not because she's weak, but because she's wise, because silence is not the absence of emotion. It's the presence of discipline, and discipline is power. It's the ability to cry in private and rise in public, to break in silence but heal in dignity, to shatter on the inside and yet glow on the outside, because that's what silence gives you. It gives you room to rebuild without judgment, to rise without distraction, to transform without pressure. And when you stop reacting, you start reflecting, you start asking yourself the right questions, you start focusing on your growth, your peace, your future, and the same silence that once made you feel invisible becomes the very thing that makes you magnetic, because in a world where everyone's screaming for attention, your quiet confidence becomes louder than any noise. Your absence becomes presence. Your peace becomes mysterious. And that man who left you starts wondering, he starts watching, he starts questioning why you haven't reached out, why you haven't tried to fix it, why you haven't tried to make him jealous. And that's when the power shifts, because now he's the one feeling confused. He's the one feeling rejected. He's the one dealing with the silence he thought would come easy, but silence isn't easy. When it comes from someone who used to give you everything, it's not easy when you were used to the constant attention, the constant reassurance, the constant energy, and now it's gone. Not because she hates you, but because she chose herself, and choosing herself means cutting off anything that threatens her peace, anything that makes her question her value, anything that makes her beg for the bare minimum. And once she learns that silence protects her from unnecessary chaos, she guards it like treasure. She no longer feels the need to announce her next move. She lets the results speak for themselves. And believe me, the results always speak. They speak through her glow, her smile, her peace, her success. And the best part is, she didn't have to do anything petty to get there. She didn't have to throw shade. She didn't have to fake it. She just lived. And in that living, she flourished. Because healing is loud to those who never thought you'd heal. Growth is painful to those who never wanted to see you rise. And silence is brutal to those who counted on your voice to feed their ego. So now that you're silent, now that you've taken your power back, now that you stop reacting, they don't know what to do with the version of you that doesn't need validation, and that silence starts breaking them from the inside, because now they're forced to sit with their choices. Now they're forced to acknowledge that they underestimated your strength, that they mistook your kindness for weakness, your love for dependence, your vulnerability for desperation. But you weren't desperate, you were loyal. You weren't weak, you were giving. And now that the giving has stopped, the silence is louder than it's ever been. It's in their dreams. It's in their phone screen when your name doesn't pop up anymore. It's in their memories when no one else matches the way you made them feel. It's in their guilt when they realize you never tried to hurt them back. You just left quietly, gracefully, powerfully. And that's what drives them crazy. Not the breakup, but the dignity. Not the distance, but the discipline. Not the end, but the elegance with which you handled it. And now every time they see you glowing, every time they see you smiling, every time they hear your name, they remember the silence that followed their decision, the silence that exposed their immaturity, the silence that held a mirror to their choices. And there's no escaping that, because silence has a way of reflecting truth in a way that noise never can. It's not dramatic. It's not reactive. It's not loud. It's honest. It's pure. It's intentional. And that kind of silence breaks more egos than any argument ever could. So when someone leaves you, thinking they've won, thinking you'll fall apart, thinking you'll chase them, just be still. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Let it cleanse the hurt. Let it build your power. Because nothing makes a man regret his decisions more than the woman who walked away in silence and returned as someone unrecognizable, someone stronger, wiser, happier, and no longer accessible to him because she mastered the art of silence, and in doing so, she mastered herself. Leveling up without announcements is the most powerful move you can make, because when you stop telling people what you're doing and start showing them what you've become, you shift the entire dynamic without saying a word. There's a different kind of energy that follows someone who doesn't broadcast every step they take, who doesn't need validation for every little win, who doesn't feel the urge to prove a point on social media or send signals through stories. And quotes, when you keep your glow up to yourself, when you move in silence, when you elevate in private, that man who left you, he starts to wonder, he starts to question, he starts to panic, because the truth is most people expect to be the center of your world. Even after they walk away, they expect access, they expect updates, they expect to hear about you one way or another. And when you deny them that access, it makes them feel powerless, because silence creates curiosity, and curiosity leads to regret. And regret is the most powerful teacher there is. See, when you level up without making noise, you create a mystery. And mystery always holds power. You don't have to post your new job or your new mindset or your new peace. You don't have to flaunt your healing or show off your transformation. You just have to live it, and the world will take notice, and he will feel it in the shift of your energy, in the absence of your presence, in the stories people start telling about you, in the way your name comes up in rooms that he's not even in anymore. He thought you would stay stuck. He thought you would spiral. He thought you would crumble, but you didn't. You evolved. And that evolution is loud, even when it's silent. It's obvious, even when it's unseen. And the more you grow, the more he realizes what he lost, the more you glow, the more he questions his own choices, because your silence combined with your success is the loudest scream you could ever make. And it hurts him more than any text you sent, more than any revenge move you could make, because when he hears about how you've been doing better without him, when he hears from others that you're glowing, that you're booked and busy, that you're happy without him, that you're laughing more, loving yourself deeper, and living more freely, it does something to his pride. It chips away at his ego, because the woman he thought he had figured out is now out of reach. And she didn't need to announce her comeback, because she was never gone. She was simply preparing for her return. And the most beautiful part of this whole process is that you didn't do it to prove him wrong. You did it to prove yourself right. You did it for you. You did it because you finally understood that you never needed him to shine, that your light was always yours. He was just blocking it. And now that he's gone, the light is shining brighter than ever. And you're not interested in showing him you're better. You're just focused on being better. And that's what makes it hurt him 10 times more, because nothing is more painful to a man who expected you to need him than seeing you thrive without him, than watching you win in silence, than hearing from others how you've upgraded your life, your mindset, your circle, your habits, your goals, your energy. You're not the same woman who begged for answers, who cried for closure, who hoped he'd return. You're not the same woman who waited by the phone, who tried to fix what was already broken. You're not her anymore. And the moment he realizes that, the moment he sees that your silence isn't coldness, it's confidence. That your distance isn't bitterness, it's boundaries. That your elevation isn't about revenge, it's about rebirth. That's the moment it hits him. That's the moment he understands that he didn't just lose you, he lost the opportunity to grow with you, to witness the evolution, to be part of the chapter that was meant to be the best part of your story. But now he's just a footnote, a lesson, a name that doesn't get mentioned anymore because you stopped writing your story around him and started writing it around your purpose. And when your purpose becomes your focus, your energy changes, your glow intensifies, and your silence becomes sacred. Now, everywhere he goes, he hears about you, not because you're trying to be heard, but because your growth speaks for itself. Now people are talking about how you're doing better, how you're unbothered, how you've upgraded, and he's sitting there wondering why he hasn't heard it from you directly. He's wondering why he's out of the loop, why he no longer has access to the woman who once gave him everything. And the reason it's driving him crazy is because he knows he can't undo the damage he can't undo the decision he made. He can't go back to the version of you that would have answered his call at 2 a.m. or responded to his text after days of silence. That version of you is gone. And the new version isn't interested in explanations. She's interested in expansion. She's not available for confusion. She's committed to clarity. She's not looking back. She's moving forward, and she's doing it quietly, powerfully, gracefully. And every time he checks your page, hoping to see a glimpse of your life, only to find nothing. Every time he asks mutual friends how you doing, only to hear you're doing great without him. Every time he sees you out glowing, laughing, building, becoming the woman he once knew, but now can't reach, it eats at him. It breaks something inside of him. Because men don't miss you when you cry. They miss you when you rise. They don't regret leaving when you beg. They regret it when you become unrecognizable. And that's what happens when you level up. Without announcements, you become a new woman in private and revere her in silence. And there's nothing more powerful than that, because now your life is the evidence, your peace is the proof, your growth is the testimony. And he's watching from a distance, knowing that he'll never be part of it again. Not because you're punishing him, but because you finally understood that your power was never in being seen, it was in being whole. So let him hear about you from the streets. Let him feel your growth through the silence. Let him sit in the chaos of wondering what you're up to while you sit in the calm of knowing who you are. Because the moment you stopped announcing your growth was the moment you truly began to grow. And the more you level up, the less you need to say, because queens don't explain, they elevate. And real transformation never needs a witness. It just shows up unapologetically. And when it does, the ones who doubted you, the ones who left you, the ones who overlooked you, they'll feel it in their soul without you ever having to say a word. Your glow up is God's revenge, because when someone breaks you thinking you'll never recover, when they walk away believing they've taken your best with them, when they choose someone else and leave you behind like you were disposable, they expect you to fall apart, to lose your shine, to become a shadow of who you once were. But what they don't expect is the fire that ignites in silence, the power that builds in solitude, the transformation it takes. Place in hidden places while the world is watching someone else, they have no idea that what they thought was your end was just God moving you out of their way so he could rebuild you in peace, renew you in purpose, and raise you to a level that their presence could never handle. Because when God gets involved, your glow becomes untouchable. Your peace becomes magnetic. Your beauty becomes internal. And external, it becomes that divine kind of shine that can't be faked and can't be duplicated. The kind that turns heads not because of what's on you, but because of what's in you. That kind of glow up doesn't come from makeup or revenge bodies or thirst traps. It comes from healing. It comes from walking with purpose. It comes from letting go of what hurt you without becoming bitter. It comes from forgiving what broke you without losing your softness. It comes from rising anyway. And when you rise with grace, when you glow with humility, when you evolve without shouting it from the rooftops, people feel it in their bones. And the ones who thought they'd never regret leaving start questioning everything they thought they knew. That man who thought the grass was greener elsewhere, who believed he replaced you with something better, he starts to see that grass was artificial. It was shallow. It was pretty, but it had no roots. It couldn't handle the storms. It couldn't nurture his soul. And while he's out there trying to recreate what he had with you, trying to force love into a space it was never meant to grow, you're out here building yourself, watering your soul, protecting your energy, and glowing in a way that can't be explained. That kind of glow hits different because it's not about revenge, it's about resurrection. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be before pain dimmed your light, before love made you small, before rejection made you question your value. And now you no longer question anything. You know who you are. And that confidence is loud even in silence. It travels, it echoes. It leaves impressions on every room you walk into without effort, without explanation. And he starts to hear about it. He starts to see it. He starts to feel it in his spirit because the glow you carry now is not for attention. It's for alignment, and he doesn't have access to it anymore. That's what breaks him. Not that you moved on, but that you moved up. Not that you found someone new, but that you became someone new. And the version of you he could manipulate no longer exists. The version of you that begged for closure, that cried for connection, that waited for apologies has evolved into a woman who doesn't chase, who doesn't plead, who doesn't settle, and she's glowing from the inside out. She's in her season. She's walking in purpose, and the pain that once buried her became the soil that birthed her. That kind of transformation hits harder than any words you could say because it makes him realize that he didn't just lose a good woman, he lost a woman who was about to become great. And that realization doesn't come through confrontation, it comes through reflection. It comes late at night when he's alone, scrolling, watching, thinking, regretting. And there's no undoing it. There's no getting that access back because your glow up was heaven's response to your heartbreak. And now you're not the woman who needs to prove anything anymore. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to seek revenge. Your existence is the clap back. Your peace is the payback. Your joy is the justice. And that glow that follows you everywhere you go, that's the reminder that God never left you, that he was working the whole time behind the scenes, using your pain to refine you, using rejection to redirect you, using abandonment to elevate you. And now you understand why it had to happen, why they had to go, why the door had to close. Because what was coming next needed space. What was meant for you couldn't fit in the life you were living back then. And now that you've stepped into your glow, that life feels like a past lifetime. It no longer hurts the way it used to because you're no longer who you used to be. And that kind of peace is powerful. That kind of peace confuses people because you're not mad, you're not bitter, you're not resentful. You just heal. And healing looks good on you. It looks like brighter eyes, softer skin, clearer vision, higher standards, and stronger boundaries. And none of it needed to be explained to him because he'll see it, he'll feel it, he'll hear about it from the people who once knew both of you, and they'll say, she's different now. She's glowing now. She's winning now. and he'll smile on the outside and break on the inside, because no man who truly experienced your light ever forgets it. You were never meant to stay small. You were never meant to stay in pain. You were meant to rise, to shine, to grow. And now that you have, it's undeniable and untouchable. And no matter how many times he replays the past, no matter how many memories he holds on to, it won't bring him peace, because peace was tied to your presence. And now that your presence is gone, he's left with silence and flashbacks, while you're surrounded by favor and blessings and joy. And none of it needed an announcement, because that's how God works. He doesn't shout, he shifts. He doesn't post, he promotes. He doesn't scream, he elevates. And the glow up was the response to everything that tried to break you and failed, everything that tried to bury you and missed, everything that tried to erase you and only made you more unforgettable. And now every room you walk into, every opportunity you step into, every person you bless with your energy is a walking reminder that nothing and no one can stop what God has for you. And the man who left thinking you'd never shine without him has to watch from the sidelines while you shine brighter than ever, not in spite of him, but because you were never meant to be dimmed in the first place. This glow you carry now isn't just physical, it's spiritual, it's divine, it's earned, and it can't be faked, it can't be bought, it can't be copied, because it came through fire, it came through tears, it came through silence and solitude and surrender. And when a woman glows like that, when she shines with the strength of survival and the grace of healing, the world takes notice, and so does the one who lost her. And that is God's revenge, not punishment, but promotion, not drama, but destiny, not destruction, but development. And now that you become everything they never believed you could be, your existence is the final word, and your glow is the answer to every question they never had the courage to ask.